What's going on, everybody? Bobby Fire, Shoot Tabor. We're going to be talking through this NBA 6-game slate. Obviously, if you joined us this morning, basically nothing is the same, and everything's all over the place, which is fine by me. But it is what it is. So I've just been going through my lineups right here, trying to.
You talking to me?
I think he's talking to somebody else.
What's up?
No, nothing. I couldn't tell if you were talking to me for a second. Because I jumped off my screen. But no, there's obviously a lot of information to go through.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you said nothing's changed. I still have D'Angelo Russell's a good play.
Sure, absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I have him as the top point per dollar play right now by like a lot.
Yeah, I get it. It's interesting because even I think it's worth speculation that he's not necessarily going to start. I think it's at least worth speculating. But it is one of the first games. If it was a later game, it would be something, more worth speculating on because I think the ownership would drop. But I think he's going to end up what do you think he's going to end up? 65, 70% owned?
I have 40.
But do you think it's going to be higher than that, like realistically?
I don't know. Why? Who else? I mean,
if he's starting, I think it'll be a lot higher than that, especially in the higher buy-ins. So that's my initial thought on that one.
Let me throw a couple of other guys. Again, I'm literally looking at this for the first time. Jordan Miller
at the 3K play.
Is he any good? I mean,
he can get there. It's still a speculative play. It's not like it's not like he's going to start. It's just he played minutes when Porter didn't before. We're assuming that he will again. He played well in those minutes, so it's a logical idea. There's another logical idea that sort of takes maybe a little too much creativity, but I think Mo Bamba is like a really good play tonight for tournaments.
I got to him a few slates ago. I got to him somehow, and nobody played him. I don't know what he ended up getting, maybe like 15 or something like that.
Sure.
But not only I got to him, but also some all the good players somehow played him. Even though he was like only 8% owned. All 8% were like people that, you know what I mean? Like that were in contention, right? That had him, so he's showing up as like a decent play for some reason.
The thing that's right now I don't have like hardly anybody playing him, and I just like set a minimum of if we're gonna like examine okay, what can we play from the Clippers because we have the Porter out basically is the news as well as Powell. Amir Coffey, that's not a fun roster point per minute dollar wise. It's still a play you're going to end up with. Derek Jones Jr., same thing. But if you want to,
I don't mind playing Derek Jones Jr. I mean, he's active at least, right? I mean,
and even Coffey, they're sort of, but they can. I mean, they can literally go 10 possessions in a row without touching the ball or ever even seeing the ball. That's sort of what I meant, I guess.
What about Chris Dunn too?
Chris Dunn is definitely a better play than he was earlier today. And I am getting to like all of these things, but I think if you're going to speculate, and this is a totally speculative situation because of the no Powell, like why can't we speculate on against a team that plays two bigs between Randall, Gobert, and Reed, like basically all of the game? Why can't you speculate on Mo Bamba being a play at 3K? If people aren't going to.
It's the last game too, right?
It's the last game, yeah.
So, and we could always do that.
Yeah. But there's no gap between the other games. That's the only problem.
Right.
Like right now I've got 70, I have so many Celtics, it actually feels unhealthy, but it makes plenty of sense, I guess.
Well, does it? I mean, they're still a 15. What's their spread now?
12.5.
Yeah. Who's your favorite? I mean, I have all four of these guys rated, or even five of them, like rated really well.
That's what I'm saying. The one that, go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Between Kristoff, Pritchard, White, Jaylen Brown, and Hauser. Did I name the starting lineup? By the way, I mean those are the five top guys I have.
Yeah, but I like Horford, who's going to be the lowest of the bunch.
No, he definitely will be the lowest.
So I I didn't make as many changes. I used the thing. I'm still subject to change based on whether Batatse is starting or not.
Wait, what's happening with that?
He's still questionable. They announced that he was a game time decision. So
give me a break. Seriously.
If this is, by the way, if you're being announced as a game time decision, you're not a game time decision. I mean, you may actually be, but like, why do we need the announcement? I guess to say it's a real game time decision. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, I like Horford as a way of getting different because it's really going to be hard to get different. It is giving. I mean, the SaberSim numbers I think love Hauser even more than the rest of the DFS playing world. But Sam Hauser is like. I mean, it's hard not to get 100% of them if you would just use SaberSim right now.
Well, I'm redoing my projections right now as we speak, and I'm gonna rerun something. First of all, I want to see if the D'Angelo Russell ownership number goes up, like you said. We'll see. But then again, like you think that's going to go up once they officially announce him starting, maybe, huh?
Yeah. And the other part I was going to make is that like. Okay, so we have such extreme chalk on one side. You're probably going to end up with 3 Celtics in most builds. Cash games probably have 4 Celtics, to be honest. If we're playing tournaments, shouldn't we play hey, what if this game is close? And why don't we play like some Cade Cunningham, who was doubtful earlier, but now is supposed to play? You know, like that.
I'm getting a projection. I mean, are we projecting him? I mean, like he's supposed to be in?
I got him right now with a 41.2 projection. I don't have him officially in.
That's I have him at 42.8 points. Yeah, I guess so.
So, but that's not a real. That still feels hedgy, even though he doesn't even have a status of being questionable. It's a little weird, honestly. So, the point I was trying to say, like about these things, is where you have this extreme chalk on one side with the Boston stuff, especially, but then with any Lakers, the run backs are going to be the unknown part because like. LeBron is going to end up being fairly popular, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. I want to be ahead of the field on that. D'Angelo Russell is going to be extremely popular. That's in general something you could think about fading. But if you're going to go with what the Sims are giving you and stuff, maybe force in, 20% Tyler Hero, 20% Jimmy Butler, something like that, just to try to get a little bit different and get a little correlation going. It's a lot more the way I used to play. And I think it makes plenty of sense. People always say, oh, it's lucky this game goes to overtime. I always say this to everybody. Like games within a 5-point spread predicted, they have an 8% chance of going to overtime. So it's 1 out of 12. And then if you have a spread of more than that, you're talking about 1 out of 20. That's still a pretty high percentage when you're getting an extra, sometimes if you're playing 3 or 4 guys, maybe like an extra 30 or 40 fantasy points out of it.
That's true.
I changed my thinking sheets. I'm going a lot more on the overall thing, as if I was playing the lottery. Those are the things that I think make the most sense. Like Cade Cunningham could put up as much as Giannis tonight, and he's 2,300 cheaper. I'm saying he's not likely to, but 1 out of 6 games he does, and he's on the opposite side of this game where we're going to be playing 3 or 4 guys. Shouldn't we play him in case he does get his normal like? He can get 60, no problem. But what if he gets 70? Then you have the run back that nobody has. And what if that game stays close? And the overtime is just an extension of that.
Well, let me ask you this: like, if you ran the Sims and just did nothing, right? You do nothing about basketball and blasted 5,000 lineups. Like, how many lineups would Cade Cunningham be in?
None.
Yeah. So it's just hard to play that much of him with that information.
I'm saying play 6% if you're multi-entering.
Yeah.
Play 8, 10 to 10%. But I use him as an example. But in the Lakers game, like Hero, Bam, and Jimmy are all like legitimately reasonable plays anyway, and we'll have a little bit of ownership. Why not be overweight that ownership? That seems like
I like that. I like that a lot. And what about that? And if these Clippers are going to be popular, I mean, you should probably play some Minnesotas too, right? Now, Conley was supposed to be a good player earlier today. Is he still a good player?
So I actually didn't. I was trying to get underweight him earlier when I was trying to run my stuff because it was like trying to.
We'd love to be under on him. We don't like it. We don't like playing.
Right, but when he goes from the Sims are trying to give me 80, 90% of them to now they want to give me like 10%.
Brief.
Yeah, then play him. I mean, but you're not expecting a high end result. There's not the huge upside. I would stick with Naz Reid, who might get a little more overlooked now. I would stick just because he's got a higher upside than Conley does. I would play some Anthony Edwards in the same sort of vein that I would play. What's his name? I just named him. Cade Cunningham. Like those are the kind of plays that it's going to make so much sense to someone tomorrow when they win a tournament, and those are the plays that win the tournament for them.
Right.
You know. And we talked about some of them yesterday. Like, but imagine if that Dallas game goes into overtime. John Moran.
What happened, by the way? Did Morant get minutes?
So he ended up with a season high of minutes, 31, 32, but that's because the game was close and it was, they were up by a bunch, so they had to keep, and then they had to bring him back earlier because they were Dallas was making a run. But Luka went whatever, he's 7X or whatever.
What did he get? Did he get 80 or something?
No, he got 70. He didn't quite go 7X. It was a little less than 7X. But he's 11K. He was 11K flat, and he was 12% owned, which still doesn't make sense to me. And of course, he was on the winning lineup. PJ Washington, though, was 2% owned, and he had 45, and he was in that game. And also, that game goes in overtime. I probably either win the other thing, or somebody comes back who decided to play the 1% Morant because Morant in overtime is going to get at least 7 to 15. You'd think somewhere in that range.
Right.
Anyway. Go is starting. So that is going to be a knockdown to Wagner because I think the points, the projections were sort of liking him in that situation. I like Goga as a play now, and he's going to be overlooked because I don't think most people knew what to do with him all day. He won't be as overlooked on DraftKings, but he'll be very under-owned on FanDuel.
What do we want to give him as a projection here?
I think his projection is accurate-ish. I think it's going to end up somewhere between 26 and 28, which at 5,100 is a pretty good number. It's not like we got 7X value on the slate.
Yeah, I have him. Yeah, a little lower than that. So I guess he'll bump up once now that he's officially in. I guess 26 points seems about right.
Yeah. And so the question is asking here about, are we going back to top end? You just have to know what you're getting yourself into.
What are we getting ourselves into? With
you're playing a guy who played 14 minutes, and I played him in higher than the field number of lineups, but I didn't count on 14 minutes from him. He had 14 minutes, but he put up 30 fantasy points. That's not something that's duplicatable for him. He's not, Jokic. So you're hoping he gets more minutes, and maybe he will because you don't have Nembhard. But I would lean more towards the T.J. McConnell, Jarris Walker, who initially was my highest owned player, and I would lean towards the Quentin Jackson.
What do you think is going to happen to the projection on Moritz Wagner?
I think I don't think it's gonna drop. It's not necessarily that it's gonna drop a ton, and it's interesting because the Sims seem to like him more than the field is tending to play him.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad idea to play him either. But it's just on DraftKings, he's only center eligible. He and Batatze at similar ownership, I think it makes sense to play Batatze. I don't know.
But he had a really big game yesterday. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he had a huge game, but he didn't even play. I don't think he even played enough to where we have to worry about the back-to-back as much because let me just double check. I've got him here he played 28 minutes. So it wasn't a crazy number. It's high for him.
Right.
But I wouldn't expect him to play 28 tonight. I would expect him to play around 20, but there's blowouts and there's things. The Phillies got a bunch of guys not playing, which leads to another question that's in chat, which is what about Jared McCain? I think it makes more sense on FanDuel than it does on DraftKings. It's tough. He's been pretty accurate this year, and he doesn't do a lot of intangible things. On FanDuel, he's going to be really popular. Maybe the right thing is to do to fade him on FanDuel. If you're playing the same amount of lineups, maybe the right idea would be to play him on FanDuel, not play him on DraftKings, because he's going to be 25% owned on FanDuel probably. And he's probably at 6,800 going to be 4 or 5% on DraftKings. Now, I understand there's a reason for all that, but still the play is the play. If he gets 40, you're happy either way, but you're really happy on DraftKings. If he gets you 40 on FanDuel, you're playing with a quarter of the field at least. You don't want to play him for 30.
Right. Yeah, so Derek White, I imagine, is going to be like, boy, the ownership projections are all over the place. Anywhere between like 15 to 45. I mean, I'm probably in the middle of that. I think 30 is fair.
30 for the lottery, like probably close to 50 for the big buy-ins.
Think so?
That's my guess.
Yeah.
I think Jaylen Brown fits a similar category. I'm questioning myself whether I should do something really bold and like just, I don't want to like necessarily full fade Sam Hauser, but it does feel weird at 4,500. Like we've seen him get there with less guys than this. Not get there with less guys than this many times. Now he definitely has a ceiling, but if he misses his threes, if he goes 0 for 7 from 3-point range and whatever, or 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 in the first half,
right,
he might have like 3 fantasy points. So to play him at like 80% or 90% of where the sites are trying to give it to me, I think I'd rather just be under 50 no matter what, and probably under the field if I can try to find a way to get there that makes sense.
So I gotta watch this the progression of this Moritz Wagner Goga Batadze projection, because right now, like I'm getting just a ton of Moritz Wagner.
Yeah, because his projection seems too low. And by the way, it's still not a bad. I kind of get it. It's like it's still a good play. It's weird because
he's not starting.
He didn't start last night, even without Batadze. He's not.
Yeah, but now Batadze's in, is what I'm saying.
But even with Batadze out, I don't think he started. No, he didn't start last night, right? Yeah, they didn't start him. He just he played a bunch of what would be garbage time minutes, but it was the cup, so they were trying to score as many points as they could and catch up, which they kind of did. But yeah, I mean, is he going to have a 27% usage rate? His usage rate is always really good, but is he going to play? If he plays 22 minutes, you're probably in great shape. Why we'd assume he'd play 22 minutes is beyond me, because with Batadze and everybody else they have available, he basically always plays, unless we hear like Jonathan Isaac is suddenly out or something. He basically always plays these minutes.
Like 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
Do I really want to play so much of a guy that's going to play 18 minutes?
Well, they've got him. See, now they've cut it down to 20, but that seems pretty fair. 20 is like reasonable. Like there's upside because of.
You think there's upside? I guess.
He can't. Well, because he doesn't have to play 20. You know what I mean? He could end up playing like 24, 26, just because of the flow of the game. Because they've done that before. There's times where Batadze did play where he like does go nuts, but there's also times where Batadze plays where he plays like 12 minutes.
So meanwhile, I don't know if you noticed this, if you caught any of the Discord or the tweets, but we got a little bit of a cushion tonight. For
which part? Oh, for you got the I didn't check out the other one.
The soccer.
The soccer. What's happening?
Took it down.
Let's go, man.
Got like 1st, 4th, 5th, and 7th or something like that.
Oh my god.
We're like total like 7,000. Yeah, we're free rolling tonight.
Oh my god, that's so crazy. Because somebody wrote on one of our YouTube comments like, "Oh my god, Sheets, I see you in the I guess he wrote EPL. Is it EPL?"
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, but I thought for some reason in my head I just thought it was
like a weird sweat. No, what I mean is like everybody kind of knew about it. Like even like in the DFS Hero Discord channel somehow. Like somebody, and I never go there. Somebody said, "Hey, Sheets, we'll leave some money for us in the EPL." I'm like, "Huh? No, who's even watching?" You know, it's like that's
beautiful.
Yeah, no, that was fun. Those guys that wrote those guys. Listen, I run the projections and I do my thing or whatever. I know a little bit, but shout out those guys at RotoWire know fucking everything. You know, so
yeah, they're awesome.
I rely on Jack Burkhardt and Ryan Belangi and all that stuff, and it's yeah. And I have projections from a couple of places that I kind of look at, and then I listen. I'm learning after doing this for a while. I know a couple of guys I like to play. I have my favorites. I still do that. And what's cool about it is there are no sims for it, so it's not like everybody's just like all the programming wizards are just putting out great lineup builds. Yeah. You still have to kind of like know a little something, which I kind of like. There's plenty of other sports where you could out sim people without knowing anything, and soccer's not one of them yet. So it's kind of cool. So it is kind of cool. And it's a fun. It is a fun sweat. It's literally an hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes. And what's awesome, it's like the Sheets Poker Tour. Like the Sheets Poker Tour is the poker tour where every tournament starts at exactly noon, with like no late registration. If you're not there on time, you don't get to play. You know, and you know, start time is 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. That's what soccer is. Soccer is at 10 a.m. start time. They're off and running at 10 a.m. All the games, like literally all the games.
That's crazy.
So I do like that.
That's really funny.
And they all start most of the time. The soccer, they all start at the same time. They all end at the same time.
Yeah, no, that part is cool. I actually really used to enjoy it. You don't know this about me, but like,
I've told me.
No, I literally just, it was for whatever reason, I got picks for my cousins and my friends and the guys who knew everything about the World Cup teams and stuff.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah. And, during the World Cup, I won the big tournament 7 days in a row.
What?
Yeah. And it was like 100 people, but it was like, you know, there was $100 buy-ins, and there was 1 week they made it a $500 buy-in. So it was like,
oh my
decent
God.
money, but it was a great bankroll builder. It was like, it just felt like there was no way to do any wrong, because you find the one weird play,
right?
And for whatever reason that these guys had a feeling would play. Anyway, it was pretty funny.
So I'm basically just stalling to wait to see what happens with this Batatse.
He's in. Oh, the projection. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and see if I can't come up with some excuse to not play that much Moritz Wagner, because I prefer not to.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to force him out. But I mean, I'm just kind of, I'm hoping that the projections come down.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out just a couple things from some of the questions here, and I'm happy to look at your thoughts. So, who has better upside, Peyton Pritchard or Porzingis? I think that my answer to that would be that you're looking at lineups wrong. That you shouldn't be comparing a 5,500 with a 7,000 guy and try to figure out upside. It just doesn't make any sense, and they're different positions and all that. So I don't think there's a real thought that should ever go into that one. And then the 3K players with value, Whitehead and Miller, unless they start Dariq Whitehead, you're not playing Dariq Whitehead. If you want to play 1 in 150, this is exactly who he plays for Brooklyn, but there's a weird blowouty, bizarre path where your 11th man gets run. But the fact that he put up 30 fantasy points in the last game, don't use that as a signal unless they start him or you hear some coach speak. Like, yeah, maybe you get 1% out of 150 or something like that. That makes sense to me. But it's just remember, they lost players, but Ben Simmons is also back playing again. The guy I really like in that game, by the way, that I'm making sure I'm over the field on is Schroeder. I think it's bizarre that the projection on, like, Schroeder, in my opinion, could be like, you could make his projection 5 points higher and it wouldn't throw me off. You could tell me he was 30% owned. That wouldn't surprise me. He's one of those guys that I know will be higher owned and higher buy-ins than he will be in the lower buy-ins.
You know, the guy that you just mentioned from the Nets, whatever his name was, Hassan Whitehead or whatever his name was.
Dariq Whitehead, yeah.
Dariq Whitehead. That seems like one of those plays on a short slate where after the fact, like, half the sites like pretend that they recommended him because they threw him in like the end of like one sentence, like you can play this, you can play this. Hey, you can play some Dariq Whitehead, and then like he gets 35, and they're like, you see, we gave him out, play of the day. It's just something.
No, and I hate that shit. Like, I do think that there is an argument though for the Dennis Schroeder part of it.
Oh yeah, well him, whatever.
He's gonna have.
What happened to Elf Payton, by the way? Did he get released or?
First of all, why is this guy released? He has 21 assists in the game.
I know. I mean, he should be on the Celtics. I mean, you know what I mean?
Put him on any team. It doesn't matter. Like, anybody who needs a role guy who can run an offense. Simple as that.
Why is he any worse than like Rajon Rondo was at the end of his career? You know, like,
because Rondo like really knew how to play basketball. Like, he was like, he wouldn't try sometimes on defense, but every big possession he just knew how to do the right things. He also was like probably like one of the most underrated players ever because he had no jump shot. It was like Jason Kidd before he ever got a jump shot, but like a poor man's version. No, I hear what you're saying, David, but the point is that you shouldn't be thinking of 3K guys like as similar. Like, right now, you should be thinking about Tyrese Martin and assume that he would be the one who played more minutes if he starts. Really, the answer is going to be whoever starts for the Nets is going to be the important part of it. So, okay, the Sixers are starting exactly who I think we expected them to. Yeah, KJ Martin. KJ Martin is interesting because he's not going to have much ownership, but I think it's actually like an interesting way to get different with value. He has a massive upside. He's 3,900. It's not like ideal. Like you're going to have some, why did he only play 16 minutes tonight? Or why did he only play 20 minutes and put up 15 fantasy points? Then you're going to get the weird 40 fantasy point game where he's just like active and all over the place. Not a great matchup for that, but I think getting KJ Martin, I would make sure to have like at least 5% of a guy like that if you're multi-entry.
Well, I'll give the same speech I gave. I did a pretty. I mean, listen. I thought I did a really, really good job with this. I did when you were out yesterday. I did a thing where I did both. Like I did an NHL breakdown, but I really just kind of like talked about a lot of different things. And I like to share something with the person who just asked like who's a better play, this or whatever. Again, probably 95% of the people don't care, but whatever, I don't care. There are different levels to thinking about DFS, right? And I'm going to analogize that to my main source of income, and that would be how to analyze like portfolios and like stock market stuff. So what at the very, very basic level, what people do is they look at players, right? And okay, so is this guy a good player? That's like level 1A. So that's the equivalent of saying is something a good company. And then the next level is, okay, is he a good DFS player? All right. So okay, that's fine too. And then to even get more advanced, you'll say, okay, is he a good DFS player today? In other words, is he a good matchup? Is he a good price? Is it a good play? And that's the same thing as saying, is this thing a good stock? Is it a good stock? Is it good upside? Is it a good buy today? And all that's really good. That's fine. But if you can do that, that to me is like pure beginner level thinking. Okay. So you do need to be able to do that. But the next level that you have to be able to think about, and that's to be like an intermediate player in both stock market and in DFS, is to not think about it in terms of players, but to think about it in terms of lineups. All right. So it's not like whether this player is good, it's whether a certain lineup is good. And so a certain player, for example, can be a real good part of one type of lineup, but a real shitty part of another type of lineup. So if you think about DFS in terms of lineups and as opposed to players, you're gonna think you're gonna do much better. And the example I gave, it's kind of a weird one, but I gave the example of David Moore and Adonai Mitchell from like last week. Mm-hmm. If you looked at those two players, and listen, it didn't work out, I don't care, but you look at those two players on their surface, they really weren't great plays. Okay, they were like very marginal $3,500 plays, but because that slate was such that you use those guys, it opened up your lineups to be better by getting like bigger studs. That's why they became, I don't want to say good plays, but the lineups with them became good plays. Now it didn't work out, but whatever. But that's the analysis. So if you could do that, then you're like kind of like really good advanced intermediate level, which now only I would say 3% of people do in the stock market, and probably 3% of people do in DFS. Now I think that the next level that's going to be, this is where the Sims are really going to just take people. And I already see in some of the more advanced discourse, people are starting to talk about this. If you don't even look at it from a lineup perspective, but if you look at it from a portfolio perspective, then you're really then you're really getting it, because like even like if something's a good stock, and even if you have a couple of them go together, does that make a full portfolio of portfolios? And likewise, if you could build a good lineup, that's fine. But if you could also build a great like negatively correlated lineup against that one, where if one wins, the other one won't, or something like that, and you build like a portfolio of like 150 or 50 or 30 or 3, whatever you're doing if you really can think about it that way, then you're super expert, and that's hard. Okay, and that's one of the things that keeps me playing DFS is to continue to try to think about things that way. So when people say, "Oh, who do you like better, X or Y?" I'm not being a dick. I try not to be. When I just say I don't care, or like it's a stupid question, it's just not of any interest to me. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to try to win money at this, I really think that you need to think about things in terms of not just players or plays, but at the very least put in terms of lineups.
I totally agree with everything you just said. And also, tying into all that, if you're thinking about it in terms of DFS specifically, it ties into how much your bankroll is, how many lineups you're playing that night.
Yep.
All of those things factored into it. And it's not about whether Sam Hauser is a good player or not. It's about whether Sam Hauser is going to be equitable for you. If you're going for a one lineup in a lottery type of shot, probably you shouldn't be playing him. If you're going to play a bunch of lineups, you probably want to have your fair share of a guy like that. Or, you know what I mean? Maybe it's a bad example.
To that point, someone's going to ask me, okay, is XYZ a good tech stock or something? I don't even know what to give an example of. Okay, NVIDIA. Is NVIDIA a good, should I buy NVIDIA? Well, that's a stupid thing to ask. It's because it depends not only on what portfolio you're putting in, but what your time horizon is. Like, what do you expect from that? And to analogize that, what contest are you in? How many people do you have to beat? And how long do you have to beat it? And what is your bankroll to deal with all the losses that could happen if you play risky stuff like that? So that's the way, I try to think about this, and it's hard.
Right. And even in basketball, one thing though so it used to be more common than it is now. So it's actually a little bit not fair to bring it up, but it was like, I always found it fascinating that you'd always see an awesome lineup. And yeah, you're playing 150 and people go, oh, it's so easy to, no, it's not easy to play when you play 150 when there's 100,000 people. It's just not. But there would be one guy who's 2% owned. He might have had 7% of that guy. That might have been that percentage that makes the difference. But if you're playing 7 lineups that night instead of 150, yeah, you're probably not getting that guy, or you're only playing that guy. Those all make sense in different forms, right?
Yep.
So Cade is officially in, and Keon Johnson is officially starting, not what was going to be a very popular Tyrese Martin.
Wait, so Tyrese Martin is not starting? Okay.
No, Keon Johnson is. So I think we need.
And is he going to be 75% owned again? Remember, he was that the other day.
He's 4,500 now. They bumped him up.
Oh, okay.
In all fairness, he's been decent enough. He's not a good point per minute player, and they aren't starting Simmons, so Simmons will take a lot of that work off the bench. And remember, people are looking at the game logs and going, "Oh, but Ben Simmons didn't." They're not thinking about Ben Simmons anyway. They're thinking about what happened. Why did all these guys score 30 fantasy points for Brooklyn the last time these guys were out? The answer, the contrary part of it, is what the projections are picking up, which is that, well, Ben Simmons didn't play in that game, and that's going to be at least 20 minutes of pretty high usage. Even though he's not going to shoot, he's just going to have the ball in his hands a lot.
To go forward again with something that I just said, when we go through my process, we've done this so many freaking times. We sometimes watch when I go for more min uniques, right? And what I try to do is try to get as diverse as possible without impacting the average, projection of the lineups and stuff. So you think about that. The reason I'm doing that, we talked about the different ways of looking at lineup building. Is doing it that way is looking at my lineups, not even from a lineup perspective, but from a portfolio perspective, because I am intentionally not even playing my best lineups.
Right.
I've already listed my 50 best lineups,
right,
and I am intentionally not playing my favorite line, even considering ownership, even considering leverage, even considering Sims. All I'm doing is sacrificing some, projection integrity or some average projection in the name of getting diverse, which does have some sort of semi-quantifiable value. So everything that you do is for a reason. If you up a player's projection, you know what that's doing? It's because you want more of the player, right? If you demand a certain amount of stacks, then that's trying to improve your lineups a little bit. If you try to get more min uniques, that's trying to improve your portfolio a little bit, so it's so that's an example of that.
Right. And that's good. That's good stuff. People are liking that. It makes a lot of sense, man. I totally think about this stuff, but I can't necessarily put it into words the way
it's hard. But it's hard to actually execute. It really is.
Yeah. It's hard for me, the idea of any 100% thing, whenever my bankroll's in the lower place, it's always hard for me to do that. Right. Whereas if I'm doing great, I'm totally fine with it. It doesn't even mean a thing to me.
Well, it's what we talked about with poker,
Yeah.
The idea about it, oh, it doesn't matter if someone's running good. The hell it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like if you're running good and all your bluffs are getting through and you're winning all your coin flips and whatever, you're going to be more likely to make that aggressive plus EV play, you know, that might not work. Whereas if you've been freaking running like shit for years or months or whatever, then you're just going to play too tight. You just are. And then you go next level. If you could realize that and adjust on the fly for that, then again, at least you're trying, you know. It's tough to not be human, right?
Right.
It's difficult to not be human, but it's not difficult to at least realize that you're human, you know. And that's remember, I don't remember this when I first started playing DFS. You know, my process was I made my lineups and I said, okay, how am I going to fade myself? Okay, because I knew that what I was doing was too chalky. I didn't know why or how, but I knew it was. So the first thing I would do is build my lineups. And I'm like, okay, now how am I not playing this? Because I know it's bad. I don't know why it's bad, but I know it's bad.
Right. No, I got you. It's going to be interesting to see this Lakers lineup, by the way, come out. I'm totally into everything you're saying. I just am trying to figure out, is there a way that people Russell is starting. Never mind. I didn't see that.
How much are you getting of how many lineups are you playing, by the way?
I'm playing 2 of the big ones on FanDuel and then,
the hang time. I love that thing.
Yeah, and then 6 of like the $5 ones. Now on DraftKings, I'm really just playing like the 88, the 100, the box out. And then the $40, and then I'm playing 10 in the lottery.
So you're how much Porzingis are you getting?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm playing 30 in the lottery. So it's a good question because I just reran them and I'm trying to figure that out. I have Porzingis right now at 30%.
Yeah, it's about with the field, I guess, right?
Yeah, pretty close. Now I'm up just on my recent run I made a few tweaks and then they updated. I've got him now at what do I have him at? 36%.
Is there any guys on a small slate like this where you won't play together?
I don't think on this slate I would do that.
Like even if you had like Anthony Davis and LeBron James, for example. I mean, like
I would probably still be okay with it because there's like their other best shot creator is gone.
Right.
So that's the reason I wouldn't have a problem with it. And somebody asked about Davis versus LeBron straight up. In general, it's always Davis, like if they're the same price, which they're not. But if they were, it's always Davis, really, even in a bad matchup against Bam. But like LeBron going back to Miami, everybody's saying he's over the hill. They've lost a bunch in a row. This is usually when you get like a LeBron type of game. So I like the idea of getting, LeBron, and then I mentioned the other Miami guys on the other side. I also really like this Atlanta-Milwaukee game. I don't really care that there's not like as much injury stuff. I think it's really like, so one of my settings that I have today is that I have 15% of minimum of that game getting stacked. Earlier, it was 70% automatically. It was stacking for me. Now it's gotten less, which is interesting because the highest priced players are the ones you want in that game. And at the same time, like, are they really not going to be as owned as they were earlier today? It seems like they should be more owned. So I just think that being ahead of that the Milwaukee-Atlanta game is really, really important.
Did you end up doing that Quentin Jackson thing?
I'm still waiting for their starting lineup. They haven't.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yet. So I'm assuming that he starts right now, and I am gonna force in a percentage of it. I've got him at 25% right now on DraftKings. I didn't put it in, but that's what.
What time does his game start?
At 7:30.
What?
This is what I'm saying. This is what I hate about the freaking NBA. I'm trying to get under on this Hauser. It's a lot easier to do on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel, but I still am trying to get under it on FanDuel. It's just, I feel like I'm compromising something at some point. But I have 80% of Jaylen Brown and 70% of LeBron on FanDuel. And
that's fine.
No, but I'm okay with those being the guys I spend up on.
I don't mind that. I'd rather that than like 90% Moritz Wagner. I mean, like,
yeah, I think that I do have on FanDuel. It's too much. I don't know why it's so much on him. Like, what? I guess they're just seeing the ownership, and reacting to that because the price of players around that position, there aren't that many other options at power forward. Everybody who pays 4,600 on FanDuel, for example, 4,600. Last night that was what kept Sohan. I played Sohan and Wagner together, and that's literally the only way I could cash with 3 guys who combined for like 25 fantasy points. But that's what works. Tonight, you're going to get 1,000,000% of Wagner, where in the exact same spot, if not better, last night, because, again, he's not going to play probably as many minutes. He was 6% owned. Just a little funky to me. And I'm lowering my ownership, my max exposure on him because I don't want to have 70% of him. I think it's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It was still don't have wait a minute.
Pacers lineup is Halliburton, Johnson. So Jackson is starting. Okay. So then I'm very good with the Jackson play.
Did we expect that?
So yeah, we were expecting it, but Jackson is cheaper than Hauser. That's the play I'm going to end up using my value for, I think, on FanDuel. I just think it makes too much sense. And look, there's a range of outcomes, but if people are really only going to play a guy like 20% who could just as easily be 70% owned, it just seems like the right time to get overweight on that. Do you know what I'm getting to a lot of is Connect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's speculative, but I kind of like it, actually. I mean, somebody's going to have to shoot. Even if LeBron's aggressive, that just means he's going to be kicking out to somebody. He's 4,700.
Yeah, but everybody's going to shoot. I mean, Russell's going to shoot, right?
Yeah, and that's the part that hurts Connect a little bit. So it's like a weird mix, because you lose Reeves, who's the other shot creator, but you gain Russell, who's another shot taker. It's a little tricky. I still like Connect. I don't like that he's getting more ownership. I really like the Al Horford play for what it's worth. I know it sounds weird.
I mean, you'd think that Pritchard would be a guy that would get blowout run, I guess. He seems to be, but maybe not.
Well, he's too good now with Drew out again. But I'm not worried as much about a blowout as maybe I even should be. I know the Celtics, this is what's great. You can always stack games against the Celtics because if they're missing their threes, the game's going to stay close.
That's true.
There'll be a million possessions. It's why their games are always semi-stackable. They play fast. They take a ton of threes. So if they're missing, the other team's going to stay close. And that means somebody has 20 rebounds or somebody's got, 35 points and 5 assists and 4 rebounds or something like that.
So I went for only 2. I'm going to go over my exposure. I went for only 2 min uniques actually in DraftKings. It just fell off too much when I did that. And I'm just doing FanDuel right now. Once I finish that, I'll say who I have. Okay, so the soccer's done. I'll take that off my board. That's done. I've got my hockey in. Jared McCain. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, McCain is a play on FanDuel more than DraftKings by sight. But as I was saying earlier, if you want to play for the upside or just say that he's going to get 40, just play him on DraftKings. He's 68 on DraftKings, 6K on FanDuel. So I'm definitely going to end up with more of him. But if you're playing 150, maybe try to get a similar percentage on DraftKings.
So
still better as a result.
So a tweet: James Harden says he refuses to sit on back-to-backs.
Okay. He's really taking this contrarian stance as a human now.
Well, he's making up for it, right? I mean,
he's playing great.
Yeah. Yep.
And that team is way better than most of the teams in the West. That's including some of the favorites like Minnesota. I can honestly say the answer to this one. Bowen Thailand is an interesting, if you want to take a really weird dart throw that makes no sense.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, if we are going to play, and I'm saying Mo Bamba and I'm saying Jordan Miller or whatever, could it be him in a certain type of game? Maybe. He hasn't played, I don't think, more than 12 minutes, and it's not the first time this has happened. We just saw this happen a game ago. What did he play? He played 6 minutes. I just don't think it's worth it to bet on things like that unless you're playing 150 and you want to get 1% or something. I don't think you really want to do anything crazy with that personally. I'm not saying I couldn't get there. I'm just saying it would be a pretty bold take. And if you're going to do that, why not just play Mo Bamba as a speculative play instead?
So I have 94% D'Angelo Russell. That's what we got. So we'll just see what happens, I guess.
I got 45% of them, so I'm curious.
And then a whole bunch of Porzingis, like all the good players, I guess. Porzingis, Brown, Pritchard, Harden, 50% Harden. Ooh, 49.
Wow, 49 over 50% of Harden. That's interesting.
I did. 49% Derek Jones Jr.
Not quite sure I understand the Harden thing, just to be 100% honest.
I don't know what to say. It's just
no. I think the sites maybe over, like, I don't know. It feels like sometimes they overreact to information that we are, like, the last game was the same situation. Harden put up 36 fantasy points. Like, not to say you can't put up 70 tonight, but it's a bad matchup. Like, I just was confused by it myself. Like, because I was getting it too. Not that percentage though.
Yeah, that would be nice if D'Angelo Russell had a good game. I would appreciate that. I don't even want that much, honestly. If I can get 30 out of him, I'll be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Got to double check my entries. There was a couple times lately where there was an issue with the entry files.
On FanDuel, just so everybody knows, I have
this much Sam Hauser.
On FanDuel, my highest owned player is the guy you just mentioned, Sam Hauser.
Why is this happening for me on FanDuel? Because I actually tried to lower my exposure to him, even though I get it. It just feels wrong.
And then after that, Kristoff, D'Angelo Russell, Giannis, 56% of Giannis, and 41% of the TJ McConnell on FanDuel.
Oh, I like that as a pivot off of Hauser, actually.
Yeah, so there's that.
That's interesting.
So tomorrow we have by the way, I played, just so you know, and I think I put up projections for the small golf slate. There's only 20 golfers.
I forgot about it totally. Literally
tomorrow we can put a lineup in. You've heard of everybody. You know what I mean? Take a shot. Scheffler's going to be literally 90% owned in 20. You probably should be, but you could fade him if you felt like it. That's something to do. You get to watch some really good golfers. No cut event for 4 days. That's fun. And then the Detroit against who's Detroit play tomorrow? Dallas.
Yeah. No, Detroit plays. What's it called tomorrow? It's a great game. I'm stuck on trying to get my lineups in, but let me see. Hold on. They're playing Green Bay.
Right. So Detroit Green Bay showdown tomorrow. So we'll do that. Probably have my first set of NFL. Well, I've only put like half the games up today. I'll put them up Friday, I think. And that's pretty much it. I did another MMA video today. Tomorrow maybe I'll do the Sims and stuff, and we'll try that. And I guess we're good to go.
Nice. All right, man. Have a good night. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Go D'Angelo Russell.
For me, it's going to be go.